Well, I'll just keep it in this view again. Welcome to Stories from the River. This is April 13th, 2023 edition. Real quick review of our schedule. We just had a really simple opening. We talk a little bit about stories from the river. Um, there's discussion around motivational interviewing, and then we'll kind of turn some things over. We'll have a discussion around caring for the caretaker and the implications for motivational interviewing, and then we kind of open up the floor for discussions and thoughts. Um, as usual here in this particular forum, it's really kind of an open floor. If you're prompted to say something or you want to, you want to add to the conversation, please do. Feel free to unmute yourself and just jump on into the conversation. Um, I'm reminded here, we had a great training in Umatilla over the past couple of days, and our relatives and colleagues and east of us here, the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla and the communities that they serve have been on my heart and my mind since leaving yesterday. And I had some obligations first thing at 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning that I had to jump on and participate in some meetings with folks across the country. And it was, I don't want to say it was tough to make the transition because it was just very at the forefront of my thoughts and my spirit and my mind that what a good opportunity it was and how much I learned. But it also provided an insight for me about just how unique this work is that we're completing and that we're engaged in with all of you. That the unique needs that Native communities present in terms of providing services to tribal people across Oregon and across the country is that there's a need for a particular way of training, particular way of framing issues, and a particular way of having conversations. And I'm just grateful to be associated with everybody and grateful for our time in Umatilla. One of the things that I have noticed coming out of the training in terms of all the drive time and the work that happens is that, I feel a bit spent here this morning. It's taken me a little bit longer to get engaged into the work. I feel at some point a bit raw. And it's just a reminder for me and a need to take care of myself and do a little self-care. And so with that, I would certainly like to open up the floor to my colleague, Brother Tomlin, if you will.
Kevin Tomlin here. Yep. So yeah, this little bit of background for this Stories from the River. Sorry, my alarm's going off here. All the noon things are happening in life. And I am aware that I appreciate the heads up that we're once again in competition with a lunch experience, and we're mindful of that. So we're looking to adjust that. We're going to adjust the time of this because that leads us into one of the pieces that we run into in every training, which is the challenge of the spirit of motivational interviewing. I'll share my screen here. I got the same slide deck, Kevin. I'm going to just bring it up right here. And, because one of the pieces we have here is, what is MI? There it is. That's one of the purposes of this what we would like to be a community of learning around motivational interviewing is just to review. So there's always going to be a slide piece of content like this that just, it's just a reminder of the basics. We got into a lot the last 2 days. A lot. Like I'm just looking at this slide here, and the word communication comes up. Like it has one of the things that comes up a lot is the language of MI can seem intimidating. It can be intimidating because it's words that aren't used like in everyday language. It's kind of it can sound like jargon.
I think of evocation is the first one that
Uh-huh.
comes.
Oh, right. And the evocation, really that just means to draw out, you know. In fact, I appreciate that you put that in here. In that middle piece, designed to empower people to change by drawing out their own meaning, importance, and capacity for change. That's really it, right? That's the heart of this experience that came to be known as motivational interviewing. But like we talked about yesterday, that even the founder of this thing is not married to that title. It's just, it's probably the most precise technical phrase you could use to put on top of this experience. But really what it is communication, where we, as the helpers, we have the ability to empower people in that way. We really do. And it's almost too simple. Like the way to do that is by listening on purpose in a really focused way to another person, talk about what's really going on when they're facing a change in their life. It's designed for counseling. It was designed originally in counseling, so it even gets defined that way. It's like a counseling style, because that's really what counseling is. It's talk medicine, but that does not mean it's limited to that kind of thing, like clinical therapy. In fact, we had some that work with littles. Wyneema's here, Janet's here. That I've not had the opportunity to work with littles as an MI practitioner yet, and yet it came up that the spirit of MI is almost clearer in working with littles when it comes toward that place of connection, of just creating a space for a person to actually just feel safe and connected, and that whatever comes out of that, whatever gets drawn out of that is MI. That's the spirit of MI. So it was really cool for me as a trainer just to consider that angle, that facet of where it could be useful. That's that piece. Go ahead.
Can I jump in here?
Please.
One of the things, listening to you, it makes me, God, I have this question that's kind of been running through my brain here. This, for the past couple of days, but really now listening to you talk, it's like, what is it about motivational interviewing? Like, you know what I mean, bro? Like we started in Grand Ronde, and your journey has been, your MI journey has been a place. But what is it about motivational interviewing? We started in Grand Ronde, and along each way, is it, we've had these experiences where MI has certainly been the vehicle around change, not only for myself and those around me, but also for these communities that we're in. So it really kind of makes me, there are other evidence-based practices that are out there, but what is it about motivational interviewing?
About motivational interviewing particularly, is that it's honestly, I think it's just, it is specific. It, it is, it's a mindset that's like a tool that when I encounter somebody in my work who has that big word that we talked about yesterday, starts with an A, ends with an E. It's not abstinence.
Yeah.
They got mixed feelings. They're ambivalent about changing something. And if I can recognize that, then I can set aside my clipboard, my agenda, all the other things I need to do. That's the challenge, right? Because I got all these mandates in my job that I got to have all these outcomes, and etc. But if I recognize that in a person, and I have the privilege of having the 5 minutes that it might take to do this, and I can just kind of exhale with them and sit and not try to push them one direction or another, but just acknowledge that you got mixed feelings about this, and that's where you're at. That is what makes MI different than everything else. It's what makes it a thing. So from that point of view, there's all kinds of meaning that comes out of this, that it's not, despite how like we get stoked about it, Kevin, because we're immersed in it all the time, and we recognize it's powerful, and it's kind of for me, it was a new way of looking at things, so I get excited about that. It's like it's a new way that is kind of more effective than what I was doing, and I want to be as helpful as I can, so I get stoked about that. And it is not the solution to everything, because in my work, I face all kinds of different situations with all different kinds of people. Safety issues, like if people aren't safe, I'm not gonna sit with them and ask them how they feel about it. I'm gonna get them safe, right? If they don't have mixed feelings, if they're already committed in a real way, we don't use MI. It's not what it's for. It's only for that one situation where people get that confusion, or they're overwhelmed because they can't figure out which way to go. It's a specific thing. That's what makes it unique. It just so happens that it turns out many, many, many of our people are in that place. So it's a tool. But it's a weird tool because the tool is just, it's all in my brain. It's my mindset. It's the way that I am, ends up being the thing that's almost like medicinal, that draws out from people.
Yeah. Now now you're, yeah.
So in that way, it's adaptable. It's not something that you don't have to revolutionize what you already do in your job. It's not even intended to be like, it's more just like the way we do it. And that's what I recognized yesterday and the day before, and then in previous trainings, like we do this. We do this, and there's a way to deepen it.
Yeah.
And we got language that we can use to talk about it.
Yeah. When you started, I felt like that was a key understanding, from our time in Umatilla was, that was, they're already doing the work. They're
Right.
already practicing motivational interviewing in some sense, right? Now it's just putting structure and words on it. Right. But what is it about motivational interviewing? I get the structural approach about how it can help change and this and that, but there seems to be a component of motivational interviewing that me as a practitioner, that when I begin to understand it, there's a transformational piece about it. And I want to
Mm,
be careful about it to not lift it up to be this, you know what I mean?
right.
But there, you know, like bro, like there is something about this practice.
Mhm. Well, if you look at the 4 core skills of MI, which are really just like we discussed yesterday in depth, it really comes down to reflective listening in a non-judgmental way. What they find when they study this stuff is that by limiting um, kind of the way that I relate with somebody to those actions, right? The questions that are open, right? Uh, and really just a small percentage are going to be that, questions that draw out more data from people. But then when I get that data, instead of asking, putting in more questions on it, trying to be a guru about it or something, or trying to fix it for them, really more to just be like a mirror and use my language to communicate to them that I'm really listening with the purpose of trying to understand like what's going on right now. So it becomes about the present moment. And I think maybe this is where you're getting to, because when I hear that word transformational, that reminds me of when I was learning MI. That I just realized it just made me recognize that I needed to take care of myself if I was going to be able to do this in a consistent way. You know, if I'm distracted, it becomes a lot harder to stay focused in that way. That's what led us to thinking even today about talking a little bit about how we take care of ourselves. It's it's an aspect of training in MI that isn't necessarily named, and it comes out as like just an essential part. Like, how do we take care of ourselves? And that's going to be a question that a lot of the tribes will need to look at when they consider how, if we recognize MI as something we want to do as a system, and that system's going to have to support it, and often our systems are rough to work in. So there's some thoughts here around caring for the caretakers. And it seems as our team has been talking that this is going to be an aspect of that what next that comes at the end of our trainings. Like, we have a 2-day experience of MI, and then it's like, okay, there's a taste of it. Well, now what? And that's where we have those half days where we meet with the supervisors and we can kind of talk about what those implications are. But it really, it often means there's a need to really support each other as we go through learning all of this.
It reminds me of, you know, I'm not sure where AJ is at. I want to, she may be traveling, right? But I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of this concept, right, like it's something that AJ has brought forward, a lot for us. That it is one of the one of the anecdotal implications or findings that we have from traveling throughout Oregon Indian country is that there is a need, within those of us who are serving in, serving our tribal people, particularly from the front lines, of there is a need for formalized processes of self-care, however you language it, but
Mm.
really caring for the caretakers, right? I come out of child welfare, and I tell you what, man, there's, that's a brutal world in terms of the practice.
Yeah.
even with MI, you know what I mean? And I'm sure you understand, you know, you're coming from a therapeutic background as well too.
Absolutely.
You know, and in other roles that I have, I'm interfacing with teachers, you know, and janitors at in the school systems and this and that. And there's like we're all under this pressure, and you know, when we're attending to the needs of humans, you know, like the implications on our own personal self, you know, it's a high stakes game. And it's interesting that this is coming up through an initiative about motivational interviewing.
Hmm.
So I heard you at the, you know what I mean, somewhere, you know, in our conversation here real recent, I heard you say that, you know, that this is just kind of this is an assumption of motivational interviewing, is that people are really taking care of themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, the closest I've heard is that Bill Miller will refer to it as having an ordered mind, that there's a preparation, you know, like we got to get our minds right before we start working. And that's beyond just a good idea. It really becomes a part of like my routine before before I go into an encounter with another person as a professional, that anything can happen. And to be ready for that, really, that's where it can be a little daunting to be willing to use a purely motivational interviewing mode with somebody who I don't know where this conversation necessarily is going to go. I'm not the one who's making the decision. It's not my choice to make. I will guide them, and I certainly have my biases. And uh, in order to meet that person where they're at, I'm going to have my stuff pretty well dialed in as much as I can, you know. And in a counseling world, we have supervision, we have peer support, like counselors meet together, we have time carved out of our schedules where we're not meeting with clients during the day. There's a part during the week where we just take a break from that, and we meet with each other and check in with each other and support each other, because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of support. It can get isolating, and it can be fatiguing. So this notion of you know, it's like a cliche of self-care, which is why I appreciate what I heard AJ say, coin this, caring for the caretakers.
Mhm.
That I look at that phrase as that's just a key part of learning MI. Like, not just how do I do ORs, how am I embodying the spirit of motivational interviewing for that other person, but there's this paradoxical place where I need to apply that spirit to myself as well in order to be
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, I think you just answered the question that I asked, you know what I mean, earlier, about it being, what is it about MI and its transformational piece, right? Is that in order for it to I feel like it, you know, to be an effective MI practitioner, not only do I have to care for myself and have it, but I have to, you know, I have to believe in it, right? I have to walk
Sure.
that walk. I have to walk that walk. I'm not just
Right.
delivering a dose of an evidence-based practice to, you know, to somebody and then taking notes and walking away, but there is that piece, the component of, of walking that walk.
Well, if you even think about, you know, one specific core skill out of MI, like affirmations, extremely difficult, if at all even possible, to successfully affirm another person and not be real about it. It has to be genuine. Like, and you know, it can't be like, oh, now it's time for me to recognize your strength. You have just demonstrated a strength, and I would like to affirm that. You know, it's like, that's not how that works. There's something to an affirmation, even though it's just another type of reflection. They're showing more and more. That's kind of where the state of MI right now. We're living in those affirmations because those are the things really, like when you're talking about powerful medicine, when I can communicate to you, I recognize a particular strong, beautiful value in you. To be able to communicate that in a way that isn't phony and is timed right, man, that takes a lot. I got to be right in order to even see that. If I have never received an affirmation, it's kind of hard to give one. It seems like it goes two ways. If you're going to be the person who's trying to implement MI and listen in a way of MI, it's almost like you have to have experienced it. And that's where I think we get to that. There's the exercise that we do in the trainings around the spirit.
Yeah.
You think back to somebody who influenced you. And sometimes it takes a conversation to get there, but pretty much everybody's got something. Someone, something, even current people who are able to draw something out because they got that spirit, right? Something about that kind of connection. So anyway, I'm mindful of the time, and I want to make sure that we're hitting on what we wanted to hit on today.
Yeah.
And I wasn't looking at our participant list, but I wanted to make sure if anybody had anything they wanted to throw in around this, especially just even the general principle of self-care. Like it's always a challenge. If people want to talk about that, or Kevin, if you have any thoughts.
I'd like to engage some folks here. I don't want to put them on the spot, but I'd love to hear what Annie or Janet or AJ have to say about some of this conversation. If anything was sparked or fired up, please do jump in. Right. One of the things that I thought about here when you were discussing in this last piece about affirmations is that even if you take affirmations and you separate it out, you separate it out from this practice of MI. Affirmations is a good skill, but I feel like affirmations also makes the world a better place.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my computer kicked me off a couple times, so I had to get it restarted. So I missed a little bit of what you guys went over in the beginning part of it. And so I'm actually trying to read over the slot.
Oh, let me come back. I'll bring it back to, this is
Okay.
the main one right here. This is where we kind of landed.
All right.
That it comes down to like self-care and caring for each other as we try to learn it,
Yeah.
And just where you're at with that, what your experience is of self-care.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I think that with going over and like with the self-care part obviously is very important. I do have come across a lot of students throughout the day, and just like now I do have a group of kiddos that like to come up to my classroom and have their lunch with me every day. So I had to quiet them down for a little bit, and it's like, don't you guys have the things more fun to do than hang out with me? That I don't have a problem with it, so I just have my little lunch bunch crew here. And I think with that, I believe that it's just to try to decompress from all of the stuff and things that I hear from some of the students and everything that we went through with the ORs yesterday. It's I don't have that person or somebody that's, I can speak with after, speaking to one of the kids, unless it's a counselor, one of the school counselors, then that, should be involved with something. But other than that, it's just kind of like conversation. But if they do have, something serious that they want to talk with me about, like we said, we're mandatory reporters.
Right.
And I let them know that and before, the conversation. So I think with a lot of it, I know it's going on in their families that I seem to carry a lot. And because with, like I said, yesterday, I am now having the students coming through former students that I used to have 17 years ago. So now I have their children coming through and they're still kind of stuck in that place of where they were with their parents now. And it's just coming full circle again. And it's like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to go back to school and get into counseling to try to see where I can help out more with my community. And with that, just going through with my classes, I find that I find areas that I get to heal more. But the only one that I have with anything that I run into that might trigger me is I'm able to talk to my husband about it. But I think that's where I'm just kind of to decompress is where I think we kind of fall short in knowing who we can talk to, what we can talk about, especially, with the confidentiality. So that's only what I had.
Thank you so much, Janet. As soon as you jumped in here, the first thing that I thought about that was impactful for me over the past couple of days, Janet, was when you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you raised your hands and you were like, I am awesome. And like, that just continues to run through, that just continues to run through me. And I even had a moment here this morning when I, took myself off my camera in a meeting and I raised my hands in the air and I said, I am awesome.
Yeah, that's something that I do with my husband and my daughter. I'll do just when they, like in the morning when they get up and they take a shower, I'll go in and write something on the mirror, win the day, or, you got this, just kind of that affirmation for the day, or, just if my daughter, she has a test today and I just told her kick ass, she's got this very intelligent girl. She's just beyond her years. So it's, and she's going into psychology as well. So it's like, I think that's, she just got that knack for it because she's the one that's really started to really help me start to face like my fears and everything that I've been dealing with. And she's like, you need to get that off your back, Mom. That's too much. That's getting heavy. And I can see it. I was like, I'm the parent. I'm the grown up. But yeah, sometimes I've never really felt, sometimes that way. Like I said, yesterday when it growing up, it was that, never had anybody to, that positive person in my life. You believe that the person that's supposed to love you the most and just have that unconditional love for you is the person, she just can't stand me. And to this day, I tried to talk to her, go to dinner with her, and if I show up and she knows I'm going to be there, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I tell her, remember, Mom, we have a dinner date. I don't want to go nowhere with you. Just go get me something and bring it back. So it's just, the trauma that she's kind of went through when she was younger. So I ended up having to forgive her a long time ago, but her and my sister, I had to leave them, in my past and kind of keep them at, not too close to me anymore. So, and my sister, haven't talked with her in 2 years, but I started to become mentally and emotionally just healthy, not having that negativity in my life constantly. So I hate to say that, but it's something that's been on my mind, but there's nothing I can do about it unless they change. So I've done that, and I'm so glad you had that awesome moment. That's amazing, because sometimes we have to realize what we're doing, and just something that you come across throughout the day, or something that you let go, or even like you were talking about with your ceremony of the tobacco, that if you made it through the day or through the hour, it's just like, yeah, I am fucking awesome. I am that damn amazing. I got through this. So you have to sometimes be your own cheerleader. So, okay. I've got my other students that'll be coming in soon, so I'll take my mute off, but thank you for coming back on this for the caring for the caretakers.
Yeah. Thank you, Janet.
I had this realization real quick. I just want to put in the air here, Brother Tomlin, through this interaction here. I wonder if, and it's the obvious, but the first thought that I had is I think about some type of tool, and in the research or the academy, we talk about like some form of screener that we can utilize, in terms of where are we as a tool for ourselves to think about caretaking for ourselves. So I had that thing, but then I, listening to Janet, there was this moment that I thought, like, as a caretaking strategy, we may need, and we do need, those people that are close to us. Right? We need that family that are our supports. The formal pieces, but family is such a key component, however we define that in terms of caring for ourselves. We need those individuals.
Exactly. However we define that. Because I think we just witnessed the example of, well, in my world, we call that boundaries, where I get to choose who I let in. And maybe I get to choose who I don't have to let in anymore. That becomes an aspect of self-care. No doubt. In order to be available to let some of the people we help in, it may be necessary to make hard decisions around boundaries. So boundaries as self-care. It's a huge part of it. This may end up being an ongoing aspect of just like this community of learning in MI, is just as we lean into learning it, I have a feeling this is going to come up more than once. Just the need for, if I'm going to get my mind right to be with somebody in the spirit of MI, it has implications for my own taking care of myself and whatever that means for me,
I feel like we've been hearing that in every community and in every practice that we've developed, right? I was working with some folks out of Montana that are working around youth mental health, and one of the first things that they had talked to me about was, yeah, we're building these systems for self-care, or if we're building these systems for youth mental health, but this individual in this community was saying, but even before we get there, one of the first learnings that we had was that we need healthy, we need the people that are delivering these services to
healthy.
be healthy themselves. And it was really, it was really eye-opening to think about it from that perspective. Because it has implications for, whether we want to formalize implementation, for practice, for training. Is where are we, in our own self-care? Where are we currently located at, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically?
I feel like
true.
this is the second day that I've kind of like had this not thrown in my face, but like so yesterday it was probably like 10 o'clock. Little self-disclosure, I'm a smoker. I was on a smoking break and we were having our native wellness train the trainer event, and I was out there and I was like, I am tired. And it was just a very simple thought, but it was like, I am so lucky today to be able to have the ability to be tired and to feel for myself these kind of things. Like, not only were they like filling my educational cup by the training, but they, of course, fed us a million goodies all throughout the day and food. And so it was just really nice to be taken care of yesterday. But I remember just thinking like, I'm allowing myself to be tired. So like to just have like a breath, granted I was out smoking, but like, like honestly, it was just like, I really appreciated where I was in that moment, because I was like, I need to take better care of myself. I need to like remember this. I need to like think of myself more, and I started talking to somebody that joined me, and she was saying, yeah, because so we do domestic and sexual violence prevention. So when someone comes in and they need a restraining order and they have to get to the courthouse and they have to get it in by 11, and then they have to see a judge at 1, and they don't eat and they don't go to the bathroom. So you like do that walk with them. And some days it can just be, we just get older and you just, it gets harder, and you still have to be healthy for the next day. And so you have to like take care of yourself in some way. So it's kind of like just another reminder, like second day in a row, like caring for the caregiver. So
I just wanted to go on that. Sorry for if you're speaking, Kevin, but I believe when we were going through this yesterday, and I believe it's how we were taught when I was younger, when something tragic has happened in your life, that trauma of losing somebody, I was always taught to keep your mind and body busy. So I have always learned that from the age of 8, of just the trauma that I went through. As far as, yesterday, I had shared that I was sexually abused as a child. I am a rape survivor. I am a survivor of domestic violence, recovering drug addict, but I was always told, keep your mind and body busy. And I don't think that we were taught to actually how to process our feelings and how to express ourselves, because we end up having to focus on something else, because then then when somebody passes and you do the crying song, and then after that you're in mourning for a year, but you have to keep busy by that when their memorial comes up, and preparing all year for that we just kind of had to, as when I was younger, had to basically shut down, and I was not taught how to process this. So as an adult, I had carried this for so long. And when I was 8 years old, we call them Barbie sisters, they like your besties, and that we would play every day together. But I had lost her. Her name was Tammy, and they went swimming to at this place that that's upriver, and she went on the bridge, and there was a train coming, and she was so scared to jump that she ended up getting hit by the train. She was killed by the train. And so starting that young, I wasn't taught how I was supposed to feel. It's probably why I'm so emotional as an adult now. So that I'm actually starting to process everything that's gone on, because in my lifetime, I've lost 15 family and friends combined to suicide that have completed suicide. So now it's a lot of being in Native and not being taught to process what we're going through, that we're able to cry. Or a lot of the times that my cousins, that being boys don't cry. They were always told that boys don't cry. So to be able to process all of this, so that's why I have always taught my children to talk, how they're feeling, get it off your mind, don't carry it, and put them into a therapy by the time they were in 4th and 5th grade. And they're like, why? And I said, because I'm your mother. You're going to need it. So they're able to express themselves, because I was not able to teach them how to do that, because I wasn't able to do it myself. So now going through all of this, and then the past 2 days of taking this training, it's brought up a lot, and it's was actually a release for me, that I was able to start processing, and things that had come up that I was like, yes, it's almost like a list that I'm checking off right now. It's like, okay, yeah, I cried about that. Yes, I screamed and yelled and ranted about this. And now I'm able to start moving on and, beginning to heal. And I think the healing part is how I'm going to get there. But like I said, I have my husband to be able to talk to, even though he doesn't know what I'm talking about, or, know the person that I might be mourning. But it is that taking care of yourself, and we're all going to be doing it in different ways. And thank you for sharing that with you. You were able to breathe. Sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm not suffocating anymore. Just let that out. Just that deep breath in, and then just push it all out, and rant, yell, scream, let it all out. Thank you.
Mindful of the time, but I just really appreciate all of those words. And as a member of this training team, I take all of this to heart around what's reminding me is when we invite something like the spirit in, gotta be ready. Because man, anything can happen, and there's power in it. And maybe that's it, Kevin, about why I have a particular draw to motivational interviewing. It's the only one I know of that talks about a spirit of it. And there's power in that. So to have a place, even in this Zoom thing that we're trying to develop, that hopefully this is one bubble where there can be that place to speak. you know, and that if there's, even if it's like beyond our, we're not going to be able to fix anything, we can help people not hold it themselves, because we certainly, as a team, we have resources, each other has resources. That's part of the learning community. So it's just really becoming clear that this caring for the caretakers, caring for each other. So I'm grateful to have this community piece. Hopefully we can keep developing it.
Well, thank you all very much, and I don't know how I could follow up anything that was said here. Annie, I heard you loud and clear. Thank you around, self-reflection and sharing. Janet, thank you very much for all of your speaking, and of course, AJ, we know you're there, and Brother Tomlin, thank you very much for facilitating this. We will meet again in 2 weeks. I'll try to get word out. Please spread the word to those that are around you. We would love to include more in the conversations. And until then, we will see everyone coming up here in the future. Ayamasa.
Lamia, thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.